What's going on, everyone? Kurt Weidner here in Team Animal Training Compound, and I had a couple questions that some viewers, subscribers asked, so this is going to be Ask the Animal episode 6. Alright, first question that I got here was, have you ever had to work around an injury or issue with your body but didn't want to just sit on your ass till it went away? Absolutely, all the time. I mean, that's part of training, that's part of being an athlete. I mean, it's more or less inevitable that you are going to have issues that you have to deal with and figure out how to train around. So the first thing before we get too far in is I want to identify the difference between an injury and an issue. Okay, an injury, give you an example. Several weeks ago, months, I don't really remember how far back it was, I carelessly sprained my ankle. I completely turned it over, even felt a pop. It was a bad sprain. Bad enough that even though I hate going to the doctor, I actually went to get it x-rayed to make sure that it wasn't broken because I wasn't positive that it wasn't. There was an old break from years ago, or more minor fracture, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, bottom line is that's an injury because I couldn't put any weight on that leg for a period of time until it was healed enough that I could. So that doesn't mean I can't train. It means that I can't do certain things at all. It would be stupid for me to come in and try to train legs until that area is strong enough to actually hold weight, because I could actually make it worse. You know, if you break something, obviously you have to make sure you give it time to heal. So, I mean, I still came and trained anyway. You know, I had a boot on. I was in crutches for a couple days. Then it just went to the boot, and then I was just using a brace, and then no brace. So in a matter of really 1 to 2 weeks, and we have a visitor. Hey, Boone, what's going on, buddy? You know, I did some Larson presses with bench, feet off the ground. I did a lot of pull-ups. I mean, during those couple of weeks, I did hundreds and hundreds of pull-ups, dips, anything that I could do where I didn't have any weight on that leg until it was good enough to handle weight. I did, and I just focused on the things that I could become better at, and gave that area rest, time to recover. Now, that's an injury. An issue is something that is an aggravation. You might getting some pain, discomfort. It doesn't allow you to train certain movements or body parts optimally, but you can still do them. So, my right knee has been giving me some issues for a while. I can still train the hell out of legs, and I still do. However, certain movements don't always feel good. Certain positions, sometimes it has to do with the amount of weight, and so I have to adjust and work around those things. So an issue is something where you can continue working that area, but you can work around it, whereas an injury, you really have to, you just have to temporarily stop working an area, but you can still work out. Bottom line, you should always find a way to do something. There's really never a reason to do nothing. You know, I can't, without some really, really extreme circumstances. Obviously, there's circumstances in which you can't do anything, but dealing with injuries or issues, yeah, you should always find a way to do something. I'll always choose something over nothing. And one thing that's important to realize is that, you know, even with your issues, as long as you're working smart, you're not being stupid, blood flow is very important for recovery. Blood is basically a nutrient, a delivery of nutrients, and so if you're not getting blood flow to an area because you're just sitting on your ass, your actual recovery is going to be slower. So as long as you're not aggravating the issue and making it worse, getting some blood flow to that area is beneficial. That's why things like BFR, blood flow restriction, for instance, as of late, the right knee hasn't felt good, so on leg extensions, trying to do heavy, they don't feel good. However, lightweight with blood flow restriction actually makes the knee feel better and helps with recovery. So the next thing I want to talk about along those lines is when you're talking about an issue, you have to identify whether the issue is chronic or acute. All of us are going to have moments where something in particular doesn't feel good. My shoulder, just doesn't feel good today. I've had days where for whatever reason I'll go to do an upright row and this shoulder's like, this doesn't feel good. And if I try to do 1 or 2 sets and it doesn't feel good, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do these today. I'm going to do something else. I'll just work around it. I'm going to do them in a different way. Instead of using the kettlebell I'm going to use a rope on the cable because I can step back and change the angle and it's a little friendlier. Then the next week I go to do them, no problem, they feel fine. It was just kind of a one-time thing. Chronic issues, if you're having the same reoccurring problems every week you go to squat and your right knee hurts. You go to do overhead presses and your shoulder hurts. You have to stop and ask why. What's causing this? You're getting the same type of pain when you do the same movements, then you have to start listening to your body. It's telling you something and figuring out why. You got to identify that problem. Why is this occurring? And one thing I want to point out is that where the pain is manifesting itself is not always where the actual problem lies. Sometimes it has to do with something that's going on somewhere else. So you might be getting, an issue with your knee that has something to do with what's going on in your, around your hip region. Sometimes if you have an issue with your subscap area, it can cause referred pain out into your shoulder. So you have knots in your trap muscle and you go to overhead press and you're getting pain and it feels like front deltoid. And it really has nothing to do with the front deltoid. That's just where the pain is occurring. So you have to do a little bit of investigation to figure out, hey, where is this coming from? And then, what you need to do is identify the problem and then figure out how to fix it. If you're always having that same problem, you need to do something different. You got to adjust your programming, okay, and come up with a solution. Dave, you had a question.
Yeah, I could you clarify? I know a lot of people, they watch a lot of stuff and advice on how to do certain things. There's a right way to do this lift. There's a wrong way. I believe it's anthropometry. The way someone's built dictates whether or not maybe they should put their toes out more when they squat to get depth and pull their shoulders in or elbows in when they bench. That there is no one size fits all to do certain things.
Absolutely, and it's similar with diet and really everything that revolves around fitness. I think you should always have trepidation when you hear somebody saying that there is absolutely one way to do something, and I don't agree with that at all. I think you definitely, when it comes to lifts and you talk about movements, not only does somebody's structure dictate what is going to be a more efficient pattern of movement as far as elbow, knee, hip positioning, but also you have to consider their goals. It's just like, you'll see some power lifters that go with a low bar squat and they lean in more. They're doing almost more of a good morning, but they're keeping their back straight. It's not wrong. It's just they're going to be using more of their posterior chain muscles and they're doing things in a way that's most efficient to complete the movement. Whereas a bodybuilder who says, well, I want to build bigger quads, they're going to want to stay more upright like this and come down straight and maybe even go with a narrower stance because their goal is completely different. So yes, it's the same movement, but there's two completely different ways to execute that movement, and neither one are right or wrong. It's about what's right for you as an individual. Along the same lines, if you're feeling pain with the way that you are executing the movement, then probably you need to adjust something about that movement to get rid of the pain because there's something wrong with it. You don't keep doing it if it hurts. So good question there. Part of being able to, continue making progress and as you get older is you have to be able to adapt and evolve. I've been in the iron game for over 3 decades. I'm 45 now and I started training. I started doing push-ups and sit-ups when I was 8. All right. And then by middle school, I was lifting all the time. High school, I was a gym rat. I trained twice a day all the time. I would overtrain. So you think about over decades and decades, the thousands of reps that my shoulders and my elbows and my knees and my hips have seen. Okay. Time and time again, I've had to adjust the way I do things and change things about my programming, incorporate new movements, and I keep learning and evolving. And yet, I also, when I used to train in commercial gyms, I'd see people and they'd complain about something hurting. Oh, my shoulder hurts. But then every damn week I see them doing the same stupid shit. It's like, well, if all you ever do is bench press and your shoulder hurts, do something else. Change your positioning, do a different movement, try some dumbbells, try some push-ups, what kind of shoulder mobility exercises are you doing? Have you even tried to figure out why your shoulder's in? What about it is causing it? Maybe you have a muscle imbalance. Perhaps, it has to do with you're doing too much pressing and not enough pulling exercises. Or you're working all the different muscles around your shoulder. So you got to really, isolate, why something's happening and how do you change it. So that's about all I got for that. Like I said, be smart. If you're getting pain, try to figure out why, but don't ever use it as a reason. Oh, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just not going to work out. You should always do something. There's something that can be done that's beneficial. You can always find a way to get a good workout and work around those things. There's a lot of different ways to effectively, recruit muscle fiber in every area of your body and get movements that are pain-free. And also, you should always work towards being able to do movements pain-free. And part of it is about challenging yourself to do things you couldn't do. So a lot of the things that are going to help you stay pain-free, whether you're doing an overhead lunge or you're doing slant board squats or the one-arm reverse step downs as part of like knees over toes. Those things are hard because you don't force yourself to do them. They're not the standard of what you see in the gym, and they kind of push you out of your comfort zone, and that's why you got to do them. So anyway, that's all I got on that question. The next question I got was, when do you program conditioning, and what do some sessions look like? And this is an excellent question. So in one of my previous videos, I talked about metabolic conditioning and different exercises that incorporating hip hinging, hip movements for power explosiveness. And so somebody wanted to know how I program that in. And there's really kind of two ways and a combination of those two ways. So the first most important is what I like to do with my workouts is I always like to end with some type of metabolic finisher. So let's say I'm doing a 2-hour workout, which is pretty average. So I'll give you this morning I did a upper body workout with a lot of shoulder focus, had some arms and back. I did groupings of exercises like lat pull downs, overhead dumbbell presses, and hanging leg raises as a grouping. Seated laterals, face pulls, and ab wheels, another grouping. Tricep push downs, cable curls, another grouping. And then what I did at the very end, after I had accomplished everything I wanted to do for my strength movements, I take an aspect of everything I worked that day and do a finisher in a superset fashion with the goal more of conditioning. So I did a superset. I do a set of pull-ups to failure, a set of cable crunches with the rope to failure. Then I do a set of push-ups with my feet elevated, hands on dumbbells to failure, and then finish that off with kettlebell swings. The idea here is to get a lot of reps and a lot of movement in a very short period of time. And generally I would do like 4 or 5 rounds of this sort of thing. And I change it up every time. It can always be something different. So like if I have a shoulder-based workout, then a lot of time I'll use battle ropes as a finisher at the end. So like doing like 5 sets of 30 battle rope slams, supersetting each one with push-ups is just, if you have anything left in your shoulders at the end of everything else you did, that 5 sets is going to make sure you have nothing left. Not to mention, you're going to get your heart rate up. You're going to be sweating. You're going to burn some calories. And you can throw whatever else in with it if you want. But usually it's anywhere from 2 to 4 movements, 20 reps or whatever, so that your total set could be anywhere from 60 to 100 reps, and you're doing like 4 or 5 rounds. So you might end up doing 300 to 500 reps during that 8 to 10 minutes of supersets that you're doing. So could be kettlebell swings, could be battle ropes, could throw in some push-ups, some core movements with it. Whatever you want to do. I did a video on the sandbag throws over the shoulder, and really combining any of those things into a grouping, and it's just, okay, I'm almost done with my workout. I'm on these last like 10 to 12 minutes. I'm just gonna exhaust the shit out of myself, and that's basically what you're doing. So that's the main way that I like to program in the conditioning. The other way, and this is also part of what I do, is that depending on my workout program at the time, at least once to twice a week, I will have a straight conditioning session where that's basically what I'm doing. There's no focal movement or body part. It's basically my goal is conditioning. Right now, with my current program, I train 6 days a week. I only have 1 day a week that I take off completely, and I usually am doing yard work. Wednesday is a conditioning session, and it can be anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. And the entire session is dedicated to basically anaerobic endurance, HIIT style training. And I incorporate like a lot of the knees over toes stuff in there. So I'll do like backwards sled walk, and then right into jump rope for a minute, right into some kettlebell swings. And I'll do rounds of that till I decide I'm done. I might do 6, 7 sets like that. Then, I'll go do some hip thrusts, supersetted with battle ropes, and then other knees over toes stuff like using the slant board, the one-arm step down, one-legged reverse step downs, and then I might do some Nordic curls, and then this last week I threw in hill sprints. So in this case, and then basically, on average, I'd say these workouts last about 75 minutes. You're just exhausting the absolute shit out of yourself the entire time. You should be constantly out of breath, constantly sweating your ass off. Your heart rate should be up the whole time. You shouldn't, and you're just doing that to the point where you really aren't capable of doing much else. So there's no large movements. There's no like barbell squatting. There's no bench pressing or anything like that. It's just conditioning style HIIT movements. So that's more or less how I program my conditioning in. What I'd recommend for most people, it really depends a lot on how you're doing your programming. Are you training 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week? But included as part of your strength training program. So like if you have a day that's focused around pushing, then finish with max out sets of push-ups and battle ropes. And then like if you have a day where you're doing deadlifting and you want a finisher that involves hip hinging, then you can throw some 5 sets of 20 on kettlebell swings at the end, just to get a conditioning movement that complements your strength movement. So there you go. Any questions, Dave?
No, I'm good.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you find it beneficial. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel. If there's any content that you want to see, comment below or send me a message. Have a great week, guys.